We're in the TechCrunch studio today with Parth Shah, who's a software engineer at VMware. Parth, welcome to the studio.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And no relation. You're a Shah of another mother.
Exactly.
But we're good friends.
Yes.
So welcome to the studio. Here to talk about cloud today.
Yes.
So you work on the cloud, in the cloud, for the cloud.
Absolutely.
Every day for a long time.
Yeah.
Walk us through a little bit just from like the tech consumer level of like how the cloud turned into a meme and a joke.
Well, I mean...
not a joke in the sense that people would joke about it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's this, I think a lot, I mean, we gotta, attribute a lot of that to Amazon, says that because, I guess a lot of startups and other mobile and consumer web companies started to use Amazon Web Services, and that's really, became sort of the face of cloud computing for the normal, people out there. And so, I mean, people like to say that, whenever they host, they might just spin up a server on GoDaddy and say that, we're doing cloud computing, but that's probably not cloud computing.
And probably insert that into a lot of investor pitches. Right?
Exactly, and a lot of, I see a lot of pitches on TechCrunch, saying that, they're really a web application, but they would say that, we're a cloud-based application.
Right, because everything being made now has got some component of that in
exactly.
It. Right.
Yeah.
And so you think over time, as people started adopting that model and building on the back of AWS and other services, that most of that computing power was shifting, right?
That's true. Yeah. I feel like we are in a very, very interesting time right now. Is that the whole enterprise, the way enterprises do their computing is changing in a massive way.
Right.
Yeah, and just in the terms of not only in terms of where exactly their compute and storage is located, but just in terms of the processes that they adopt.
Yeah, and so I know that we have talked a lot about changes there in the hardware side, right? On the data side, on the virtualization side.
Yeah.
But if we focus just a little bit on the cloud side, I think one of the most powerful things you mentioned to me in the past is that actually cloud is an operational model.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, personally, I feel that it doesn't matter where exactly your servers are located. You can build a private cloud out of your own data center. But when you say that, I'm using a cloud, there are a few important things like elasticity, pay as you go. The flexibility, the agility that you get out of those processes. I think that's the important part, and that you can get with a private cloud, with a public cloud, or a combination of a private and public, which is a sort of a hybrid cloud.
Yeah.
So it really depends upon what kind of processes you define within your enterprise or organization.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's break up the cloud layer a little bit, and in this operational model, let's start from the top and sort of go down. So when you have classic software as a service, right?
Yeah.
So how do you define that?
Well, for me, I guess software as a service. I mean, it's really interesting because I feel like software as a service is software that were traditionally being hosted in your own infrastructure, in your own data center, you being the enterprise. So, for example, you had like about an Exchange server, Microsoft Exchange server running, and then you would buy 10 servers and buy the license from Microsoft, and then you would hire administrators to monitor, because you would need special skill sets to monitor and run Microsoft Exchange. And now you suddenly make the shift to Google Apps, and now all of your employees are running Gmail. So you cut out your hardware costs, you cut out the licensing costs, you cut out the operational costs that come from monitoring and managing that infrastructure. So for me, when you shift from a traditional legacy application that you were hosting and managing, and when you shift to a web-based or a cloud-based application, which is being managed by someone else.
So Gmail and Google Apps are the best SaaS product
Probably.
of all time.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they are really disruptive in the way that.
Yeah. I mean, they're giving away for free what billion-dollar companies have been trying to extract from people.
Yeah.
So okay, let's go a layer down into platform, right? So platform as a service. How do you define that area? And some interesting strategies and companies
Right.
there.
Right. I feel like platform as a service is more catered, is more catered towards developers in general,
Yep.
because with platform as a service, for example, Heroku, AppFog, they're doing a great job. They provide a nice container for deploying and managing your applications. So, for example, in the past, if I had to deploy, let's say, a Rails application, I would have to get a server, configure the server, set up my MySQL database, and monitor and manage that, but now all that's just set up for you. So as a developer, you just write code and you do a git push.
And do you see a lot of companies in the space actually removing a lot of redundancy and spinning up dev environments and things like that, or do you think that sector will continue to grow and expand?
Yeah, I feel like that sector. I mean, a lot of the platform as a service companies, they really depend upon infrastructure as a service layer.
And we'll get there.
So it's kind of interesting because they really rely on that.
Oh, I see. So there could be a threat there.
Yeah, there could be a threat there. Yeah.
Okay, and so let's talk about the big one, right? Infrastructure as a service company.
Yeah.
And this is where I think it'd be interesting for you to share a little bit about, what you would define as a public model, private model, right? And maybe show some examples, and then also the hybrid model, right? And how a company or IT manager or CIO would think about deploying each of those models.
Yeah. I feel like infrastructure as a service. I mean, it's just a tremendous opportunity in general. The market is expected to be at about like $32 billion by 2016. Wow. So, and in terms of the public cloud, it's just you're seeing a lot of small players and a few big players, and I think that there's going to be a consolidation in the next 2 or 3 years or so, and I guess Amazon and Google are going to be very strong, continue to be very strong in that space, and so they're the public cloud because you don't really own any piece of infrastructure. Now, if we talk about the private cloud venue, it's like a lot of these companies, especially companies that deal with finance, banks and stuff like that, they have some regulations and stuff, and they don't want to store their data. They don't want to do the compute of that data outside their firewall. So, so they want to own the infrastructure, but they want the same goodness that comes with a cloud computing model. So they want the agility, the flexibility, the cost savings, et cetera, that comes with the cloud computing. So there's a great opportunity there to build a private cloud. So companies like VMware, Nebula are sort of selling software to these enterprises and saying that hey, you can start infrastructure as a service with the hardware sitting inside your firewall.
Right. So it doesn't spook them, but they can have the benefits of that, but create a more contained cloud operating model.
Yeah.
And would you say like larger consumer companies like Facebook are doing that as well?
Well, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, they're really massive web scale companies. So I mean, they build their own own private cloud. I mean, Google, if you think it's a big private cloud. Yahoo has a big private cloud, right? I mean, now Google has started to offer some of the pieces of the infrastructure as a service, starting a public cloud service with Google Compute Engine. But all these big web companies are sort of private clouds. But the interesting companies to see here are like companies like Zynga, for example, who are adopting this hybrid model.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, like Zynga published a blog post about zCloud a few years back about how they have certain infrastructure owned in their own data center, and which is fully utilized all the time. And when they have like big spikes, during the holiday season, et cetera, they have some mechanisms built in to burst that traffic onto Amazon or any other public cloud.
Right. So they're managing their load that way.
They're managing their load.
So they're basically saying we want to keep our own sort of infrastructure and data here, but in the places where we can't manage it, we can offload that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see more companies doing that hybrid model?
Yeah, I feel like companies who are going through this, who are not that big like Facebook or Google to build out their whole private cloud, but they're really like mid-sized companies who are going through a rapid growth phase. It makes a lot of sense for them, because you can achieve a lot of cost savings by doing your own private infrastructure. If you know that I am going to have the X amount of traffic every day, if you know that, then you can really optimize your infrastructure and software for that.
Yeah.
And then for the bursts that you would have occasionally, you can burst onto the public cloud and get that flexibility and elasticity.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, great. Parth, thanks for coming in and explaining the cloud operational model to us.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.